Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. My name is Terrick Guindy with the Mr. Olympia. Today, we have one of the most iconic figures in bodybuilding. He was one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times, one of the greatest aesthetic physiques of all times. And now he is the mind. He's one of the most knowledgeable and respected figures in bodybuilding. His name is Milos Sarcev. Milos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I thought you were introducing Flex Wheeler, not me. Really good. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we're going to introduce the Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2023 Arnold Classic. He's a four-time Arnold Classic winner. He is a 1992 Mr. USA's and one of the greatest bodybuilders of all times, Flex Wheeler. How are you, Flex?
Great. Milos, I thought the same thing, but when you start talking about the mind, I was like, no, that can't be
me. Yeah.
Well, we also have another Mr. USA's 2000. He is the voice of bodybuilding. He's the master of ceremony for the Mr. Olympia and the Arnold Classic. He's the athlete's representative, Bob Chick. How are you, Bob?
Good, Terrick. What's up, boys?
Doing good. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, we are here to speak about Samson Dauda versus Nick Walker. And I did on Olympia News my interpretation why Samson Dauda won against Nick Walker. And I actually had the opportunity to watch for many times the Menace podcast. And I think, Dennis actually has a good point. When you look at Nick Walker's physique, he is extremely muscular and he's been extremely consistent with his conditioning. But it looks like the muscularity on his upper body is not matching the muscularity on his lower body. And we can clearly see this when he does the front stance, when he hits the front double biceps, and when he hits the front lat spread. Now, his conditioning was possibly the best on the show, but the overall package of Samson Dauda was more complete. Samson Dauda is more aesthetically pleasing. Samson Dauda is 290 pounds of muscle. There's a lot of people referring as Nick Walker as extremely muscular. Samson Dauda is 290 pounds of muscle. And Samson Dauda's conditioning was significantly improved from the 2022 Mr. Olympia. And with that overall package, I had him in prejudging and finals as the winner of the 2023 Arnold Classic. Milos, do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree? Do you want to add something?
Yeah, listen, first, let me go back a little bit. When I came to the United States in 91, I turned pro. I talked to Ken Taylor. Now, Flex and Bob probably know that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember
He was
Ken.
the NPC judge. I do remember. I said, Milos, do you know what we were judging for? I said, first thing we are looking is balance and if something is missing, right? So balance would be like priority. Then shape, aesthetic, proportion, conditioning, all that stuff, right? But I've been talking about this for quite some time. Bob and I had discussions about what is being judged, what is not being judged. And in one of your shows, you remember, Terrick, when you and Flex and Bob were talking, and Bob made you stop the video of Derek to say, look at this silhouette, look at that shape, proportion, that should be judged. And I'm still on the belief that we should judge that separately, but now I'm more a believer because of the outcome of this contest that actually everything is being judged. I'm going to say my opinion. I still think put the number on it. Flex Wheeler was, Sultan of symmetry. I was getting much higher in the symmetry round than I was in muscularity. But, let's put this on side right now. We are discussing Arnold Classic. I do think that judges consider everything. And when you look balance, it's not even close between Nick and Samson. When you look at shape and aesthetics, it's not even close. Everybody knows that. Now, how much conditioning should take part of the overall judging? Yes, it's a pro level. It has to be. I just posted 20 minutes ago on purpose on my Instagram. The last post is, how dry do we need to be? Okay, because most of us would just go, okay, extremes, extremes, extremes. Let's get drier. Let's get drier. Water is essence of life, and hydration is essence of health. So if you were gonna go, and Flex knows that because in your last contest that you prepared, if you remember, 2003, I was advising you, and I wanted you to do just a little bit, but you wanted to do a little bit more. You're not the sole example. Just about anybody. Oh, I can go a little bit further, and then maybe this coach is gonna push this guy a little bit further, and then what do? Let's have a contest. Who's gonna dehydrate more? So I salute, and I've heard Bob saying that this was the best combination of everything, and maybe during this podcast we can determine how dry and how conditioned it should be. But as Bob said, could Rich Gaspari beat Lee Haney? Not in a million years, right? So we have a Lee Haney-esque physique in Samson. Lee Haney called me, a few days ago to talk about Samson, and he was so impressed when his wife Shirley says, like, "Oh, look, he looks just like you." How huge that is. And Lee Haney reposted my comparison, kind of Samson and Lee in front relax. So I think we are crystal clear. Even though Nick Walker is going to say he is robbed, he believes he wins. How do you win? On what? You want to go body part by body part? You want to go about a balanced proportion, shape, a size, thickness, V-taper? I mean, there's no component of you can beat Samson except on freak factor, and that freak factor is not there when you don't have a legs to match.
Milos, I want to kind of go back to a little bit of the Lee Haney comparison.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to judge Samson Dauda in 2019, pre-COVID, and Bob Ciccarello was there with me. Bob, on that event, Nathan Diasha won the event. Samson Dauda was second place, and James Hollinshead was third place.
Mhm.
And on that show, Samson Dauda, even though there was a final call out between Samson Dauda and Nathan Diasha was clearly the superior bodybuilder at that point. I have a feeling, and I want Flex and you to correct me if I'm wrong. I have a feeling that despite the great genetics that Samson Dauda has, if he doesn't hook up with Milos Sarcev, he could be one of those bodybuilders that never makes it to the first call out of the Olympia or never win the Arnold Classic. Because I judged him, I liked him, I placed him in second, but I feel that what Milos did to him is very, very impressive. And if Samson Dauda goes on to win the Olympia, I'll be the first one to strike a comparison to 1998 Chad Nichols, Ronnie Coleman, Milos Sarcev, and Samson Dauda. Do you agree with my statement?
Well, we have a whole history of these guys, right? We've got Matt Mendenhall, we've got Edgar Fletcher, we've got names throughout history, whether they ever got to the pros or even pros themselves. Lionel Bayecki, I brought him up as a great example in the past. These were gentlemen with great physiques who just couldn't dial it in enough. And I was one of those people until I finally got my stuff together, using a different girl, though, in George Farah. But the result was nothing short of spectacular, which resulted in a win, a long-awaited pro card, and an IFBB pro career after that. The bottom line is this: Milos can give all the advices he can to Samson. Samson has to execute it. He actually has to listen. Clearly, he did listen this past competition. On that competition you're talking about, Terrick, Samson clearly had the better physique, but you actually said the magic words. Nathan Diasha was a better bodybuilder on that day. Okay? So Samson had all the materials that he needs. He's got all the attributes of a great champion. And I agree with Milos in that this wasn't close. This is why I said in my initial assessment of the Arnold, Nick was closer to third or fourth than he was to first. You can take that to the bank, because if Andrew Jacked just held his conditioning into Saturday night and didn't fade out, he would have been second place, in my opinion. So Samson has a great future ahead of him, and the key to his future whether he wins the Olympia or not this year or whatever, is solely going to lie in the idea that his conditioning has to be on par with that great physique on game day. If it isn't, and listen, we have an example right in front of us, right? He didn't nail it at the Olympia this year. That's why he was 6th. If he nails it this year and he's 5% better than what we just saw, you're looking at your next Mr. Olympia.
Flex, what's your assessment on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, Terrick, and I agree with you, Bob. And that's excellent what you said, Bob. It doesn't have to do solely with the coach. It has to do with them listening and actually having the tools to be able to make that happen. So it's a teamwork. It's an effort, right? I had Samson winning from the time he walked on stage. I never seen him that. We were talking about this, before the show.
Yeah.
If Samson came in shape, it's a done Dauda. Man, I didn't know he was weighing damn near almost 300 pounds. I just knew he was full as a house. And actually, he highlighted some other guys' weaknesses. As great as the potential shame on me, I'm forgetting his name.
Andrew Jacked.
Andrew, as great as his potential is, he sincerely highlighted some of his weaknesses. He highlighted his back being weaker. He highlighted his legs being weaker. And then he took upon him to be in better condition. So it goes back and forth, right? When hard work refuses to work hard, when hard work refuses to, what is it? I'm mixed up. when talent refuses to work hard, whatever it is. But yeah, I screwed
Flex,
it all up.
I want to go back to what you
I need
said
to take my meds.
about, when you look at Andrew Jacked, he is incredible bodybuilder in terms of his genetics and obviously his stature. But I'm going to agree with you that Samson Dauda is not as tall as Andrew Jacked. And honestly, I think this thing about height is a little bit overrated.
Sure
but
is.
Samson Dauda did expose something on Andrew Jacked, which was Andrew Jacked's conditioning was very good. We got to give credit to Chris Aceto. But I felt that once Samson Dauda was next to Andrew Jacked, that Samson Dauda made Andrew Jacked look a little bit streamlined, because you are talking about someone with beautiful lines and huge legs. And I'm going to share something here because I think it's important for everybody who's watching to see exactly what we are talking about here. And Milos, I want you to interject if you want and tell us what you see here as a coach.
Absolutely. Well, this is his routine, right?
Yes.
Okay. By the way,
Very good poser too.
85 poses. I took a picture, a screenshot of every single pose and I was posting on my Instagram. 85 poses. Now, look, when I was battling with Bob about posing routine, it was not about posing routine. It's about what you show in this, what physique you show. He showed
This
85.
is my routine.
Yeah, this is routine. Yeah, it's
This
85
is my 2017 routine.
You said he stole your routine, Fouad.
Yeah,
No,
let me just take the
telling you,
sound away
this is it.
here.
Yeah.
Take
He
the
puts
sound
the
away
same
here.
poses and the same music.
Go ahead, Milos.
Yeah, Samson is complete package, and he is a bodybuilder that loves to present what he worked so hard for. So that's where this posing routine came about. He gave a tribute last time, if you remember, to Flex Wheeler and to Kevin Lebroni and Sean Ray. If you remember his Arnold Classic pose, it was marvelous. He copied the routine. Now he copied Fouad in respect to what he has done for him. And here, look at the movement. He owns the stage. He demands the attention. Look at that. We can show this to anybody on the street and you're going to capture their attention. Oh, what is this sport? That's bodybuilding. This is beautiful. Now, as extreme as he is, 290 pounds, how can anybody look at this physique and say, wow, this is not what we all want to look like? So, but you're touching the subject of Andrew Jack, right? Before Friday, there is a video on Hostile that I was talking to him. Look, you are right next to Andrew Jack, number 4, number 5. You're going to exploit his lack of thickness and lower body. Andrew has a beautiful structure, possibly better than Samson. He's wider. Clavicles are wider. So when you look at it, I know first time I was with Flex Wheeler in the posing room, I said, wow, Andrew is just unbelievable. But I know that so many times he missed the mark, and Chris Aceto is going to get him. To dial him down, he's going to lose the pop. He's going to lose 10, 15, possibly 20 pounds. So when he's going to stand right next to somebody like Samson, look at that. Full, round, cartoonish characters like Superman. And that brings me back to this other point I was trying to make. Do we choose Superman or Hulk? Bodybuilding or muscle building? So that was in regards to fight between Samson and Nick. I respect Nick, love Nick as a person, but let's face it, bodybuilding that I would like to see that is going in which direction, I'm sure Flex Wheeler would, and Bob and you, Terrick, is into the beauty. I said billion times, Dorian Yates winning 93 Olympia over Flex and Sean was the worst thing that could happen to bodybuilding. And now, yes, I understand you're the judge. You have to respect the size, conditioning, shape, no weakness in the mandatory poses, but judges still have to have the discretion and ability to say, that's not what we are looking for. Let's mold those guys into Flex Wheeler look-alike, not into Dorian Yates look-alike. Because when Dorian Yates won, then everybody was just going for the size. And similarly now, we have a great, Hadi Chupin is complete, balanced, take my hat off to him. Derek Lance for beautiful physique, right? We have Andrew Jack coming. There's going to be, contender Hunter Labrada. Yeah. Nick can still win on the basis of let me freak you out, overpower you. But keep in mind, half of the body is missing. I literally was sending pictures to Samson along the way. Watch Nick's legs disappearing. That's what I told him. Mm-hmm. Watch it, because he was going for that conditioning. You don't have big legs to begin with, and now you're going to sacrifice even more to get even extra peeled. Why? So this, I think, for me, Andrew Jack was a question mark, because if he could be like Flex and I saw him when he was 20 pounds fuller, then you would not say stringy or, but now it was apparent. Hamstrings especially, quads, and the back.
Yeah, I thought Andrew was a better balance at the Honor Classic over in England. That look probably would have matched him to be second place. But, again, Samson he has a beautiful physique like Andrew, right? But he carries more muscle, and he out-conditioned him. Terrick, you said something that people were saying if Nick had a stronger upper body. I question
stronger
lower body.
Yeah.
Lower body. I question you, or I question people who say that. Are you saying that if he did, he would beat Samson?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he would beat.
No, I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying, really, what difference does it make? Would it change the outcome?
I think if Nick Walker had his quads, flaring quads, then he would become a more dangerous bodybuilder in order to attack Samson Dauda. So if Samson Dauda was really out of shape in his conditioning as he was with Olympia, and you have Nick Walker with great conditioning, but he's got bigger legs, then yes, Nick Walker could potentially beat Samson. But as Samson moves up, he continues to have great muscularity. One thing that I feel that people don't talk about is how big this guy is. Nick Walker he was 248 pounds, 250 pounds at the Arnold. Samson Dauda, what was his weight, Milos? I know you don't like to weigh them.
Yeah.
298, right?
Tuesday morning before the flight, 297. And I promise you, I don't do any crazy dehydration methods that you can say, okay, he's going to drop 10, 15 pounds. We did very, very moderately. And that's 297 depleted. And then when you count it, you're going to dehydrate somebody, you're going to put the carbs back in. I would estimate 292 easily. Now, Does he look that heavy? I said it a few times. No, even when I started working with him, I'm going to give you this. Probably you didn't know. This is 9th show in less than a year and a half that I did with Samson. You mentioned you guys saw him 2019. I didn't. I mean, I kind of remember, well, what a beautiful physique, but he needs some work, right? When he went to Korea, yeah, he lost to Korean guy. He still needs some work. And when he contacted me 7 weeks out of the Arnold Classic UK, I mean, what can you really do in 7 weeks? And he was planning just 2 shows. Of course, when you work with me, I made him do 5 shows back to back to back, all of them. And when he finally won, qualified for Olympia, I said, let's back off. But he really never had a true off season. And I'm going to say this again, even though maybe Fuad and other people don't like me to talk. He is very moderate and didn't want to take certain things. You know what I mean? So
but Milos, he grew a lot.
he grew
Because
like
there was some pictures on the internet that I started looking at people and saying, this is Milos Sarcev's protocol, and Milos is going all out because the guy grew a lot.
He said a lot.
yeah, but okay. And Bob, I respect the fact you said before, okay, you don't need to be 303, and he was 330 pounds, 50 kilos, right? But I promise you this, just watch him. I wouldn't put a mass for the sake of blindly putting a mass.
Right.
I'm watching. His shape is improving. He needed a little bit more capped out and wider delts.
Yeah.
He needed a little bit wider lats. You know, let's say Derek Lansford is probably untouchable in back double biceps, and lat spread is going all over the place. Hadi Chupan is very wide, very, very wide, right? So I know these are still areas that we can fill up. But Samson is working man. I mean, I don't know, Flex, the thing that you were saying, talent and work. He is talented and he's working his ass off.
Yeah.
And now he has that confidence, right? He had a belief that became a confidence. I mean, even going to the Arnold Classic, when I was talking to him, I was convinced that he's going to be too much for anybody to handle, because like you guys were saying, just a little bit more conditioning. First thing I said after the Olympia, when I went to one of the podcasts, I say, tell me, and I formulated, how does Nick Walker's physique beat Samson Dauda? And right away, it's only on conditioning. Okay, we're going to, tighten up conditioning a little bit, and there's no way that he's going to touch him. Now, for the Olympia, I know, like Bob said, and probably you two would agree, we need to go a little bit further in conditioning to be just,
Yeah.
Just a little on a body like that is a lot. And the same what I was trying to say is when hard work, when talent refuses to work hard, forget it. Anyway,
hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
To work hard, but when you have talent and hard work, then you're a Kobe Bryant, you're a Michael Jordan, you're a Samson. You're just unbeatable. Kind of like Ronnie. When Ronnie won and took it to that next level, I was honest with myself. I said, I can't get him. Me running full speed behind him, with him running full speed, that's a massive gap to cover. And there's nothing I can do about it. I let the cat out of the bag, and he's running for hell because he just outworked everybody.
I wanna share something here. I agree with what you said. I think if he improves his conditioning just a little bit, and listen, Milos, he might not beat Derek Lunsford on a back double biceps. And in my opinion, when Derek Lunsford hit the back double biceps against Hadi, that was the pose that I said Derek Lunsford is better than Hadi at this pose. He might not beat him on that pose, but just like Hadi, you don't have to beat in every pose. And in that regards, I would say a little bit more conditioning. And if he can improve a little bit more on his back width and thickness, I think Samson is very dangerous. And in my personal opinion, I think Derek Lunsford and Hadi Chupan are better comparisons for Nick Walker than Andrew Jack and Samson Dauda. But I want to show you guys a little bit of this clip here. And Bob, I want you to go over here. What do you see in these comparisons here? So
There we go.
right here, you can, I just feel like his legs.
Yeah, I don't know if you can stop that right there, but the show's over right there. Okay, you just saw that in its entirety. Again, you got the two guys that match up very well in the center. You got Nick and Rami on the outsides. Again, a little stockier build. Not as put together as the other two guys, but every pose, and I tried to explain this on one of the other podcasts. I think that me and Milos have been on the podcast trail for this past week. Every pose that you see is the judges assessing the physique in its entirety, in the front double by, in the front lat position, in the side chest, in the side try, and so on and so on. So when people say, well, I had Nick winning this pose and this pose and this pose, I could easily counter back and say, no, he doesn't really win any pose because he already lost. The symmetry, proportion, shape, structure, right? All that stuff that's assessed when these guys first come out. So what you end up having is you have Nick Walker or Big Rami or whoever, in this case, who are already don't have the best proportion or shape or symmetry in a certain pose. They're already behind. All right. The fate of Samson lies in Samson. Nick, unfortunately, is going to be one of those guys that his fate's going to rely on the other guys because he can't do anything about his shape or proportion, but Samson can do something about his conditioning.
One of the things that sometimes people are not aware is that when you see somebody hit a front double biceps, regardless of who's winning the shot, is also seeing who's more balanced bodybuilder at that specific pose, right? So who's more balanced, who's more symmetrical, who's more muscular, who's more conditioned. So
now, Terrick, to your point, right? In this photo we have right here, or this is the video that stopped, right? This pose right here, whether they're completely finished or not, it illustrates everything. You look from left to right. Nick Walker, good muscle, okay? The guy's got a lot of beef on his frame. You can see clearly he's not proportional. Upper body, a little bit long-waisted, short-legged. Legs don't have the sweep on them. Samson Dauda, the most complete man on the stage there. Everything's in balance. Great symmetry, great proportion. Andrew Jacked, not far off, but again, still needs to thicken up a little bit, especially in the lats. A little taller version of Samson, making not as filled out. And then Big Rami. You can see the proportions aren't great in the symmetry with the legs that are a little bit too big. The arms have actually gone down in size over the years.
You can see from the front pose here that Big Rami's lats are a bit high, right?
Correct.
You can see from the front.
Yeah, this, like I said, and now you go through and you get, 8 mandatory poses. That tells the story right there is everything for all these people, the fan base. And listen, we love the fans out there. We love how passionate you guys are. But you got to remember something as experts, okay, as commentators, as people that cover the sport. We're not looking at these guys and we're not emotionally involved here, okay? We're looking at a competition as the same way as a judge should be looking at it. So we don't get tied up in the, well, he worked hard, or well, this guy did, and Big Rami was a 2-time Olympic. Listen, that's all great, but this is here and right now, and these guys are up against each other. That's what we're looking at and assessing. By the way, that's the only shot, Milos, that Samson has to watch. He's got to keep that midsection tight. I noticed in his lat spread, he tends to let that. He doesn't have a belly, obviously, but he's got to really suck that waistline in.
Yeah, lower abs. Yeah, he got to pull from his tandem. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has to pull from his tandem, not his upper abs. You can see his upper abs are flat because he's contracted them. But a lot of people don't understand. You have to pull from your tandem to flatten your lower body, your lower abs.
Yeah, I mean, now this is perfect. It can be educational. We're talking about each pose and the flex. I love what you're saying, and I hope Samson is also listening. The previous pose you were talking about, Big Rami and lats being a little high. The way he was hitting the pose, when you do the front double biceps pose, you have to think of 2 things, right? Whole body, of course, but the biceps, how to peak the biceps, but then also how to pop the lats out.
Yeah.
And the way he was lifting it all the way up, he was making the lats go up with it. So he didn't have like Andrew, he puts it down and you can see the lats flaring. So I was saying this to each and every guy. You can't teach an old dog a new trick. And we all hit the poses just like we were hitting it from very beginning. Be open-minded, twisted, move 1 inch here, 1 inch there, lift it up, down, whatever. Just see. tape yourself, and then all of a sudden say, oh, hold on a second, right here, right there. Photographer, back in the day told me to do something. I was so pissed off, I didn't want to do it. And then when I've seen a Polaroid, like, holy shit, this is the best I've ever looked. Jose Raymond just told me, a few days ago, some photographer also told him to do something. He was so mad, and then he's this the best pose I've ever hit in my life.
Yeah,
I was going to say something when they were doing a front double bicep, and you said that his lats were high. It wasn't really that. Rami actually had his hands a little bit too high on his front double bicep, and when you bring your hands higher, it takes away from your lat. Based on the body, but your hands shouldn't be really too much higher than your head when you're doing a front double bicep, or else you start taking away the lats and elongation of the lats.
Now we are going to move on into a side chest.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can stop on the spot here.
Right there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Excellent.
That's a hell of a shot on Nick right there.
Well, see, Nick's going to benefit from the side because it disguises his lack of proportions. Okay, he's already in a bent position again, so he lowers his leg. His leg is massive from the side. His legs front to back are huge. Obviously, he doesn't have the sweep of Samson, but you can see where Jack gets exposed here because he doesn't have the leg thickness. Being 6'2", he's going to have to, that's going to be an area he's going to need to work on. This is also an excellent shot for Big Rami, obviously, with those big legs, and his overall just huge mass. You're going to fare better in the side shots with this. It's from those front and back flat poses, front double by front lat, back double by back lat. That's where they get exposed.
Yeah, it's that hamstring hanging, which, obviously, to pass Mr. Olympia, Rami, and then Nick has incredible hamstrings. So when you're doing a side pose, you may not have great frontal leg thickness, but if you have like side thickness and a great hamstring hanging, that's a dominant pose. That's actually that's a very hard pose to judge between Samson and Nick, because that's such an extreme pose for Nick there.
And I would add that, this is Andrew Jack is a phenomenal bodybuilder. He's just starting his career. But I don't think Andrew Jack, in any of the shows that he has done, in the shows that he has won, he has posed well. I still think that he's learning.
True.
He's coming along, but we still have not seen a very effective posing by Andrew Jack. And that's an area that he needs to work very fast in order to be competing with these guys. Go ahead, Milos.
Well, Flex and I worked with him on posing. Flex did much more. And I know how it is. Sometimes it's frustration, right? You see it, you want to, basically, put him in a pose, but he just didn't feel it. And I had the same feeling when I was with Flex. He was kind enough to let me watch it, especially these side poses. Yeah. I mean, he looks good. Can he look better? For sure. But here he's exposed a little bit about lengthy legs, not enough thickness to the overall legs, and no hanging hamstring. By the way, the biggest hanging hamstring in the history was your Flex. That was ridiculous.
Me or Phil Hill. Remember Phil Hill?
Oh, yeah.
That's true. But, here, a few people were telling me, like, Jay Cutler's podcast, oh, yeah, Nick is killing in a side chest pose for sure, for sure. He looks very competitive, very good, very good. You can compare. But it's still overwhelming. This is 290 plus pounds of nicely, thickly shaped, Lee Haney lookalike bodybuilder with a crazy chest. I know Bob pointed out side chest pose, it's not for a chest. Absolutely. Front double biceps is not for a double biceps, it's just a biceps. It's everything looking, but yeah, you also should look at the chest, right? And this is why this pose is also created from the side to look at the thickness. Nick doesn't have a formidable chest. And you can see it if you really deeply analyze it, right? So here, if you see Samson's thickness, he's ridiculous. I mean, he's probably becoming the guy with the best chest in bodybuilding.
It's his Milos. It's his upper chest that's dominant. So many people They have a lower chest or what we call like, a hanging chest. But when you have a dominant upper chest, it's just amazing. And that's where he's really killing, everybody at, was just this upper chest and his condition and everything else compared.
This is a good pose for Big Ramy,
Yeah.
especially from the legs. I think the shoulders are a little bit overpowering the chest. It's hard to really tell a bodybuilder to contain shoulder development. But at this point, I would tell Big Ramy, your shoulder is overpowering your chest. But in terms of leg development, Big Ramy is farther, from anybody here on that side pose. And I'm going to mention a name who's not here, but Akeem Williams is also a guy, when he hits a side chest, his lower development is quite impressive. Let's
Milos,
go a little bit
just
further
real quick.
here.
I'm sorry. Milos, I would say that that actually Ramy needs to twist more when his side chest than he is, just like Samson is doing.
Yeah, Ramy, yes, for sure. You could see he was straight up and down, yeah. And as Terrick said, his chest looked kind of flattish, so shoulder would overpower. He would benefit of turning a little bit. I know that people say, "Oh, that's a front chest," like Arnold would say in the pumping iron. It's not
right.
Hey, listen, you create illusion. Judges cannot recognize this right away what you're doing. You're looking for an overall impression. So Ramy would tremendously gain if he turned around a little bit.
So here on the back double biceps, and I was very, very happy that Ramy did open his back double biceps.
Yeah.
At the Mr. Olympia, there was this huge controversy. What's happening with Big Ramy? And sometimes the first instinct was, why isn't he opening his back double biceps? He's pinching.
Right.
And we found out from Chad Nichols that it was a strategy. And in my opinion, it didn't work, even though you can see that the lats are a little bit high. Bob, this is a much better pose for Big Ramy, right?
Yeah, somebody gave him the wrong advices. If that was a strategy, that was a real bad one. Listen, the guy won 2 Olympiads. You don't have to reinvent the wheel when you're able to put 2 Sandows on your mantle. So I don't know who made that call. Don't need to speculate. All we know is it didn't work, and it didn't look good at the O. But this is a much better version of Ramy than we saw at the Olympia. Again, still with some deficiencies. The shoulders, Terrick, I agree. They're too big, and they actually make the arms look smaller. And everything's relative, right? Listen, this guy's huge. He's 300 plus. The reason they call him Big Ramy. But it's all relative to your own physique. His arms look small in comparison to that huge torso. The legs, again, too big from the front. The front lat spread highlights, you can see his waist is much wider than it was years ago. And that's not really his fault. I mean, listen, he is 10 years older than when he first came out on the scene. Everybody gets bigger. If he's doing heavy movements still to this day, and a lot of bodybuilders do, that will thicken your waist. If you're still doing bent over rows and deadlifts and squats and those type of things, you really don't need at this stage in your career. That could lend to a block of your physique as you get older. But the judges don't care, okay? They don't care what you're doing, how you're training, what you're using, what coach you got, whatever. They're looking at your physique right here, right now with these other guys. And you can see clearly, again, Samson heads above everybody else with a beautiful streamlined physique, big, got all the muscle, in enough conditioning. Nick, again, this is where these poses kill him, these fronts and backs, because it highlights the fact that he's not proportional.
Now, I do think that on the back double biceps, Samson Dauda needs to be wider. He needs to have more weight on the back double biceps. And this is a comparison where you can see that Nick is wide, but obviously Samson Dauda is more aesthetically pleasing. But if Samson Dauda wants to get close to Derek Lunsford or even beat Nick Walker on this pose, he needs to get wider. Do you agree, Milos?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, this is huge improvement from 1.5 years. And, when I talked to even, let's say, Tyler Mannion, right, he would say focus on the back, and it was focused on the delts back like 6 months ago. I think that delts tremendously came up, capped up, and then tie in between, you can see in the most muscular pose, there is more separation, tie in between biceps, brachialis, triceps, and shoulders. But back, yeah, there is the guys like Hadi and Derek and Brandon Curry. They have that wide lats that they're going to be creating more of the V taper from the back, possibly even more thickness. So we need to improve that one, and Samson is aware of it. Nick Walker, I gotta give it to him here. I mean,
Yeah,
he looks great in the back double biceps.
those hamstrings are crazy.
Yeah, hamstring, glutes, thickness. I mean, nothing is missing. It's not pretty to look at, you know what I say, but it's impressive to look at. So I understand when judges would give Dorian over Flex, right? Okay.
Well, but Milos,
Mhm.
Dorian Yates, 1993, did
Mhm.
not compete with Flex Wheeler, 1998, 1999.
Yeah.
You know, if Flex Wheeler 1998 shows up at the Mr. Olympia 1993, Flex Wheeler beats Dorian Yates, but Flex Wheeler was not at his peak, in my opinion, at the 1993 Mr. Olympia.
Agree.
It
I
was
tell you
And
what,
that guy, Chris Cormier, I wouldn't have him in the top 10 in any Olympia.
you're so wrong. I tell you what, those damn Nigerians, look at those calves, man. Good
Right.
God Almighty. Jeez. I'm talking inside, outside. God.
Oh,
Jesus
Flex.
Christ, huh?
There's one that lives in Canada. His name is Quentin Beastwood.
Yes.
Let me
I
tell
met him.
you. Let me
Yes.
tell you. This guy one day will hit
Yeah.
the stage
Yeah.
and scare the hell out of all of us. Okay.
He is lightning in
He's
the bottom.
taller than Andrew Jack. He's
Yeah.
got bigger legs than Samson Dauda. And if
Yeah.
he fills up on his chest and back, we are going to be doing lives about Quentin Beastwood eating these guys for lunch. He is massive.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy. I
Now,
met him a few
let-
times.
Let's move
Continue.
on. Yeah, I think Samson Dauda, if he's able to get his back wider, he might not beat Derek Lunsford on a back double biceps,
But he doesn't
can
have
close
to.
the gap. He
No.
can close the gap. And now we are moving on to the back lat spread. So right here.
This pretty much shows, what you just saw with the back double by. They've all got impressive width. You can see they're all top tier, pros. Big Ramy is extremely wide, as you can see.
Gosh,
This is a real good shot for him. You got to give Jack a lot of credit, man. He's standing between two 300-pounders. Not that he's probably far off from that. He's a little bit taller, but listen, does he get exposed a little bit? Yeah, but he gets exposed
wide
standing
back.
between 600 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, that's a
I
wide
still
back.
think even on this pose, Big Ramy's shoulders are a little bit too overpowering.
They are. Yeah.
And and that would be my only criticism. Contain the shoulder development, but this is a good pose for all of them. And now they have to be aware that Hadi Chupin on this pose, he has tremendous width, and they're going to be ready to battle with him. So they're all going to have to fight for this one.
Yeah.
But you're talking like damn near a 5-inch difference, man. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. You just got to see him on stage. But that when you have a guy who's more complete or just as complete as you, and he outdoes you by 5 pounds, that's hard to deal with.
Now I want to go back to something here, okay? Because a lot of people, and Lila Brada was talking about it on the Manis podcast, so I lost myself here. Lila Brada was talking on the Manis podcast about dynamic posing, right? Which
Look
is
at that guy.
the transition. You get a hold of yourself, Bob.
Don't tell him to do that.
Lila Brada was talking about, look at the transition that Samson Dauda is going to do here from the back lat spread.
I caught it. Yeah.
Every second counts.
Yeah, it sure does. They're looking all the time.
Hey,
We say that all the time, right, Milos? A
Yeah.
transition is another pose to steal.
That's right.
This would be, and Milos, correct me if I'm wrong, this would be a dynamic posing, which is a transition between one pose to another one, where the bodybuilder Samson Dauda took the attention to do it, which also displays beauty, which also showcase his aesthetically pleasing physique. And I would recommend all bodybuilders to work on their transitions.
Flex was teaching Andrew this when we were in the posing room. Steal the pose before the pose. Get in this transitional mode that looks so good that judges cannot look at anybody else, but he is going to look at the movement, and then you're going to hit the pose. This is what Andrew still doesn't. You see, Andrew would hit the pose and look quite decent, but in between poses, he was relaxing too much, and you could see the lack of thickness development and muscularity there. If he did what Flex told him, if he hid it, maybe he could get away with it. But Bob says this all the time. You are judged from the moment you step on the stage until you walk off. Judges are looking. Don't drop the shoulders, let the stomach out, relax your legs, lose the separation. I mean, for the love of God, you're being watched and judged all the time. Phil Heath lost to Sean Roden on in-between poses and relax.
That's true. I got to give credit where it's due on that side try. That was a real smart choice of a side tricep by Andrew Jack, because if you guys notice, he's doing more one of those Steve Kuklo style kind of face to front more, which is going to make him look a little wider, because he turns to the side next to these two monsters, he disappears. So whether it was conscious or not, this was a real smart play by Andrew Jack, to make himself as big as possible in a side tricep when he turns.
I love that pose. I had first seen that pose by Serge Olivia. Serge Nubret.
Nubret owned that pose, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
So it's gonna.
But when you look at it, please look now. In side triceps, Andrew was only maybe for 2 seconds. He should have stayed there for 5, 6.
No, agreed. Yeah.
You know why, Milos? I'm not saying directly. I
know
Andrew, but the reason why, it takes tremendous conditioning to hold poses. It's hard enough just to hit your pose and then release it. But man, it's a whole different level when you continuously pose in between and all that. And a lot of these guys won't train hard enough with their posing to take themselves into such deep water that they're comfortable and uncomfortable. That's why I've always said, hey, listen, if you get tired on stage, the thing that matters most will become the thing that you focus on. So when you start to get tired, you don't give a damn that your gut's hanging out. You're just trying to breathe and not pass out. You got to push yourself beyond those points that you're comfortable doing that. So most of these guys just don't have the training where they pose long enough to get comfortable in doing that. Milos, back in our days, we would pose freaking 5, 6 times a day, 6, 7 times a week for hours.
Rounds
and getting ready for that.
Yeah, 8 seconds first round, 10 seconds, then 12, then 15. Flex, you probably forgot when I came into the room, you were doing 20-second pose hold with Andrew. 20 seconds each.
Yeah.
So it's just question: do they do this daily? And I mean, I always say, Spartans, what's your profession? Bodybuilders, what's your profession? Not this. You're going to pose on the stage. Football players are going to throw the football and run with it. And here you're going to pose. And if you can handle the posing, like you said, hold the pose, transition the pose, steal the pose before, this kind of thing. But they don't do it. I mean, I would love to believe that Andrew did, but I think that Andrew did maybe just with you.
It shows on stage no matter what. I remember in '93 competing with Lee Labrada on stage, and I was literally hiding behind Robbie Robinson because I was exhausted. I was kneeling down, hiding behind Robbie, staring at Lee Labrada. And I asked him, I said, how does he do that? And he's so tough and everything. What do you mean, Flex? I'm like, how he goes, I don't know, go ask him. So I asked him afterwards. I go, how do you do that? He goes, how do I do what, Flex? He goes, how do you hold the poses? You never get tired. You don't breathe in between. He goes, you practice, Flex. I'm like, huh? He goes, you know how you go in the gym and you train and you practice all day training? We got to spend more time posing than you do training. And that's why that was the era back then, right? That's the era that we came from. Beautiful poses, artistic poses, and just be a dominant, be a force on stage.
Now, I have a question to all of you guys. Flex, when you hit your front double biceps, despite having a very small waist, you created an angle with your legs to minimize the waist even more. Yeah. You can see that's something that Andrew Jack is trying to do here. Would you recommend that to Samson Dauda and Nick Walker? Would that make their physique even more aesthetically pleasing? Because it worked perfectly for you. There's that traditional Flex Wheeler pose where you hit the side pose and it's beautiful. Would you recommend that to them?
So just because a pose look good on you doesn't mean it's going to look good on other people. You have to have that body type. Like we're talking before, when you have a physique that's extremely muscular, you don't come out and do la poses and all that like I do. You come out and you do these beastly poses. Like Bob said, I want to see you do 100 different most musculars.
Right.
So it has to fit with your body. It has to fit with your body. But I think for Samson, I don't know, because his legs are so powerful. I think the way he hits it, maybe just twist just tiny. But I would have to see that on him. Milos is his coach and judge, and so Milos would know more. But just because, I mean, we all emulate from people before us, right? I didn't learn anything. I stole something from everybody I looked at before me, and we just emulate it and we change it and we make it our own. But just because you like a way a person hits a pose doesn't mean that it's going to flow with your own body. You have to find out what flows for your body.
Whose front double biceps is this? Look at Samson. Whose front double biceps is this? Lee Haney.
Yep.
You know, that's what we try to emulate. I understand. Look, Terrick. Yeah, we tried a few other things. He wanted to go for that look. He can possibly play with it. I let Chris Cormier call him and also give him some advice. I would love Flex Wheeler to give him. I told Lee Haney, if you're going to be at Olympia, please come and see Samson. Listen, I'm very much. We can learn. We can learn from each other. You know, sometimes Flex points out to me something that, I never even thought about it. Why I didn't? Well, it's so natural to him. So Andrew Jack, of course, emulates Flex. There's some similarities, and it's great to see that. For me, I was going Samson looks like Lee Haney. Let's have that resemblance. Let's be recognized. How wrong can you be looking like Lee Haney?
Yeah, right. Look at that guy.
Yeah, that's close to perfection.
Let me tell you something. You see that pose? It's funny because Samson's hitting that thing perfectly, right? Standard Lee Haney-esque front double by, exactly what he should be doing to showcase that physique. The two guys I got a problem with in here is Nick and Jack. If I was Nick, I would be hitting a front double by more like Flex, because he doesn't have leg sweep. You have to create leg sweep, and that's going to help if you were to twist. Obviously, it'll make the waist look a little smaller, but it'll also give the legs a little bit of a different look, where you're just not so straight, where you're going to get found out real quick that you're not in the best proportion and you don't have a lot of quad sweep. And if I'm Andrew Jack, this guy's 6'2", 300 pounds. Listen, stop hitting the abs like a small guy with your front double by. Get a vacuum shot. Now, again, I know you work with him, Flex. I can already tell you by your look that he probably tried and it didn't look like shit, right?
Yeah.
Because
doing a vacuum is difficult. Some people just can't do it. And the other thing is true. You have to have a wider rib cage to be able to do a vacuum. I never had that.
Yeah. I don't know. I see Jack as just, I would be towering over these guys like Godzilla out there. He should be stomping a mud hole in these guys on stage, just heads and shoulders above the rest. Just that big rib cage double bicep shot.
I agree with you. My feedback to Nick Walker and his coach, Matt Jensen, I give him a lot of credit. Those guys are doing something special. Is on the front double biceps and on the front lat spread, if you create an angle with the legs, you could showcase a little bit more of the quads on the right leg or the left leg, whichever you want to pivot. And that could also help you minimize your waist. I think it's time for them to take a look at the front double biceps, take a look at the lat spread, and try to create an angle to make his physique more aesthetically pleasing. Because right now we are in a very, very dangerous situation when you're dealing with aesthetically pleasing guys that are huge. Andrew Jack and Samson Dauda are not only aesthetically pleasing, they're not Dexter Jackson. Dexter Jackson was aesthetically pleasing, amazing conditioning, but he wasn't the biggest bodybuilder. You are dealing with a different type of generation, big and aesthetically pleasing. And if these guys come in conditioning, I don't even know what could happen. I mean, Samson Dauda with a bigger back in condition, Bob, like you said, this guy could be a perennial favorite to win the Mr. Olympia.
Well,
I
I think
agree
the
with
two
you,
names
Eric.
you got to look out for is, Samson, obviously, with his emergence, and now finally finding a formula that works. If I'm picking two guys to be battling it out, and this is with all due respect to the current champ, it's Samson Dauda and Derek Lunsford.
Mm, mm.
So, Bob,
Milos, I
go
just
ahead,
want to
Flex.
ask you a question. Because both of us come from an era of posing and love it, right? We love it. We love being artistic. I think a lot of these guys should try various different poses and see what works best for them. I can't take credit for my front double bicep. That's a Lee Labrada who did it before me. That's a Bob Paris who did it for me. I just stowed and I tried various different things of posing and just seeing what fit best for me. I don't think these guys do that much. And again, it comes down to conditioning of being able to pose. You have to have the strength and endurance to actually even hit a pose properly.
Yeah, but here is the moment, okay? And listen, Bob, I love you, and people always think that but here's the thing, and you were a great poser as well. What I was just saying,
Yeah, he
because
was.
judges don't really judge it. We have that feel. Yes, they judge. Let me correct that. Yes, they judge, but maybe they don't judge enough. So if he would put that pressure, listen, you have to come out and give us something, okay? Because if this guy is going to give us something, you lose. Even if you're maybe ahead in front of a prejudging, right? So that gives that suspense and, people are coming, they're expecting something. Now, most of the guys were working it off. When you hear the pro bodybuilder saying, "Oh, I hate posing," I just, he doesn't even want to come on the stage. You reflect. You represent bodybuilding. You represent a sport yourself. You're supposed to love being there, like you, Flex. I mean, Bob, some of your posing routines were marvelous, right?
Bob was a great poser.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, you got a judge right here with Terrick. I'm sure he can tell you exactly whether it counts or whether it doesn't. But if Samson winning this show with his artistic posing doesn't send a clear message to everybody else out there, you better up your game, then shame on them.
Well, we did Olympia battle with Chris Bumstead and Ramon Dino. And Ramon Dino needs to improve his posing. And Chris Bumstead said, I am not the greatest poser myself. I was with Terence Ruffin, who's the best poser in the classic physique division in Romania for the Olympia Amateur. And people were paying money for him to go to Romania. They were writing him a check. They're like, you know what? Maybe Ramon is more popular. Maybe Chris Bumstead is the Olympia champion, but I'm going to bring Terence Ruffin here to do the posing seminar. Now, my favorite of all times, whenever I lack motivation and I don't want to go to the gym, I go on YouTube and I click on Mohammed Makawi. I don't know how much money Mohammed Makawi won on that posing routine, but forever, that's going to be registered in the history of bodybuilding. And like Lila Brada said, if you earn $1,000, if you get judged or not, but if you have the opportunity to go on stage or to get something registered on YouTube where people can see it in 1,000 years from now, why not use that moment to create something artistic that you can be forever remembered? It just shocks me.
Again, me, Bob, and that guy over there named Milos. Just kidding. We come from an era where posing was appreciated. It was artistic. Guys put work into it. We were awarded, for our posing. I would try to spend up to like 4 minutes on stage just because I had so much to try to show. But it's like a great movie, and I'll be quick because I know we're running out of time. It's like a great movie. It can be like 3 hours long, like the last Black Panther. It was so long, but you didn't realize it because it was so captivating. And I think that's a huge thing that's lost now. These guys forget that this is an art, and you need to be artistic about your art.
Okay, guys, since I can command this live, I just want to show you guys a little bit. This is my favorite of all times, with all due respect to all the bodybuilders in the world. In my personal opinion, it will never get as good as this here, Mohammed Makawi posing this posing routine. In my opinion,
1994.
84.
84. He haven't even hit a pose and he's already posing.
You know, if I can comment as he's posing, because we can clearly see the routine, but, you know, this is the only other critique I'd give Samson is I love his posing, but I wish he would kind of take it back a notch to the old school and hold the pose a little bit longer. He's so quick in transition sometimes that you don't get to enjoy the actual pose. And you'll notice, especially from the 80s era, guys like McCauley and some of the earlier great poses, Ed Corney, those type of guys, they always held their poses a lot longer than the guys do today.
So,
yeah, Bob,
I would think Muhammad Maccabi. I think Muhammad Maccabi is the greatest.
You know how much energy he's dispensing right there? It's so much energy. I would damn near pass out off stage when I walk off stage because I'll be so drained. But it takes so much energy that what he's doing. Look at his transitions the entire time. That's an incredible amount of isometrics and just posing. And plus, he's in extreme condition. Again, we come from that era of watching these guys, and that's why posing meant so much to us. That's just beautiful, man. Look at that. He's an artist, just like a ballet. He's an artist. Look at him. He's displaying his art.
But he is the pose. He is center stage. Every pose is him.
Yeah. Like I said, when he walked on stage, before he started posing, he was already posing. Just his presence, right? His presence.
You know, I know Milos absolutely loves this. I don't even know if he's in a mandatory pose, Milos.
Well, I don't know if you have to hit mandatory poses that night.
No.
It's your expression.
You can do anything you want. But
now, so I want to, Milos, we have a segment here which is called Losing Some Followers.
Okay.
You already lost plenty of followers because you beat Nick Walker with Samson Dauda. So, but who's, in your opinion, the greatest poser of all times? In my opinion, is Muhammad Maccabi. In your opinion?
It's Lee Labrada, because Lee did multiple variations. I mean, I know Muhammad Maccabi's this routine. I competed with him in late 90s in Canada, and I've seen his routine. It was not at this level. This was perfected to the point of every finger is there, the facial expression angles. But Lee Labrada did variety. We can remember probably 10 spectacular posing routines. You see, when we talk about Vince Taylor, that robotic routine is, but he did this for 10 years. Flex and Kevin and Chris were mixing, every time was a little bit different, but you guys have the style. Labrada had that style, but he had a little bit more refined artistic and execution. I mean, choreography, timing. I mean, balance, angles.
Music.
Yeah, and then facial expression. It was effortless always. Yeah. Some of us, I catch myself, I'm breathing through my ears, like my stomach is up, like Jesus. I didn't realize, because you want to be perfect. So, Terrick, I love this routine of Maccabi. Could possibly be greatest. I would agree, but I didn't see multiple routines from him to put him in the category of a best poser. Therefore, Lee Labrada, for me, takes that title.
It's hard because we're able to watch the great posers before us, and we learn from them, and we up their game. It's so hard to compare because back then there was no one doing that, so he was the man. But Lee Labrada was able to watch him, learn from him, and take it to a different level. I think poses should always evolve and be better because they have the opportunity now, especially with YouTube, to go back and watch all the great historians and grab those poses and make them better, make them their own. I just don't think that's done anymore.
Flex, in your opinion, who's the greatest poser of all times?
I just said I can't say because I learned from other guys.
Don't say Chris Cormier.
I couldn't say myself.
Don't say Chris Cormier.
So the difference, so there's a difference between great posers and great entertainers.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge.
Vince Taylor was a great entertainer, but he didn't probably hit the most amount of different variety of poses. One thing I hated about Chris, he was artistic. His poses were spot on. It's just that we had a different type of charisma. I was more of a showman and stuff like that. But if you talk like hardcore, just hitting poses, I would go to Chris. If you were to talk about the balance of both, of presenting, being artistic, and hitting poses, then yeah, I would say myself. But again, we should all evolve. I think the posers now should be way better than we were because they can see it and they can grow from it.
Okay, before we finish the live, I want to make sure we finish with Bob Ciccarello because it was exactly approximately 6 months prior to the 2022 Olympia when I asked Bob Ciccarello, who's going to win the Mr. Olympia? And Bob made a pick that nobody was picking. He picked Hadi Choopan to win the Olympia. And Bob is already cocky. He's already an arrogant guy. And, you know, I knew when Hadi Choopan won that show that we would have to endure Bob for the next 20 years. Yeah. Now, Bob, all credit to you. You are the Bob Stradamus. You got it right. But the moment has come for you to look at the camera with no fear in your heart and say, who is going to win the 2023 Mr. Olympia?
Let me look into my my bowl of soup, like Nostradamus used to do. Stare into it and then see the future unfold. This is how I get this stuff, guys. Look at it. It's right here. Look at it. You can see it. It's unfolding. It's unfolding. It's unfolding. Your next Mr. Olympia, the next name you hear will be your new Mr. Olympia. And that man is Samson Dauda.
I would not bet against that.
All right.
From your mouth to the God's ears.
Yeah.
All right.
I know. Milos is firmly behind me on this one. Trust me.
Absolutely.
If Samson wins the Arnold and the Olympia, he's going to come close to what? $800,000 in 1 year?
Yeah, he's making some coin. You know, it's about time. But you know what? Listen.
He deserves
it. For it.
Here's the deal, okay? If Samson, again, I'm going to say the same exact thing I said for the Arnold. I actually, at the end of the day, Terrick, if you remember, even though I liked Samson and that was my pick, I kind of had to go with Nick because Nick has established himself as very consistent.
You kind of didn't believe that Samson Dauda was going to be in top condition. So this would be an appropriate moment for you to apologize to Milos.
We can only predict so much.
You could use this opportunity to apologize to Milos right now.
No, listen, until you see it, and that's why we had to give Nick credit where it's due, right? Nick established himself, third at the Olympia, very consistent. We've never seen him off at a show so far, so you had to give him his just due. That's a respect thing. Now we've seen Samson almost nail it. And Milos, he's already heard me say this. If he's 5% better, 5% at the Olympia, then the cards are in his hand. They're going to have to beat him. And I say that, again, all due respect to the champ, Hadi Choopan and all that, because Samson Dauda has things that none of those guys have in that potential top six. They don't have his height. They don't have his musculature. They don't have his symmetry, his proportion, his shape, or his presentation. If he nails it, the only guy that can give him a problem, in my opinion, is Derek Lunsford if he nails it.
Very nice.
And if Samson wins, he will properly change the trajectory of the sport in a very positive way.
Yeah.
Very nice. Gentlemen, I'm going to finish this live. I'm going to LAX. I'm going to Thailand to judge a bodybuilding show in Thailand. But I want to thank the four-time Arnold Classic Flex. Great speech, very emotional, very beautiful, well-deserved. You have no idea how much you've impacted not only the bodybuilding community, but you have inspired millions and millions of people. I'm a huge fan of yours, and I want you to know that, you know, that made us all emotional. It was a beautiful speech. Thank you once again for participating. Bob Ciccarello, an incredible job at the Arnold Classic, and you continue to be the Bob Stradamus. If you're right about Samson Dauda winning the Olympia, I don't think any of us will endure you because you'll be so much cockier than you already are.
Oh, well, I may not always be right, but I'm never wrong.
And I, you know, I gave credit to Chris Aceto and Chad Nichols because I think they did a great job, and I gave credit to Matt Jensen. But before this live is over, I'd like to make an observation. If Bob is right and Samson Dauda ends up winning the 2023 Mr. Olympia, I am making a clear parallel between Ronnie Coleman and Chad Nichols 1998 to Samson Dauda and Milos Sarcev 2023. And we could be talking about when Samson Dauda hooked up with Milos Sarcev, it was game over. And we'll be able to revisit this, but I think if this happens, we have to look at Milos Sarcev, the mind, one of the most respected men in bodybuilding, and give him a lot of credit because he brought Samson to something that we had not seen. I judged Samson, and I can say Milos Sarcev made a huge difference.
Thank you.
Definitely. I would echo that. And also, I would give credit to Samson for sticking in with Milos, why he made those adjustments.
Yeah.
So many guys just jump camp, but he stuck with them. And here's the results of that. So, yeah, I can definitely say that with you, Terrick.
Thank you so much, Milos. What's that? Go ahead.
We just started, really. We just started.
I think he has so much more in his tank, man. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Well,
just watch him evolve in the true Olympia champion. I didn't think maybe it's going to happen this soon. You know, I was kind of projecting a little bit further, but it's happening, you know, so why stop the train when it's speeding?
Congratulations. What you're doing with him, Milos, is incredible and amazing. And I wanted to bring you to Olympia TV because you deserve a lot of credit. Thank you so much, Flex Wheeler. Thank you so much, Bob Chicrillo and the mind, Milos Sarcev. My name is Terrick Guindy with the Mr. Olympia.